Well, hello there. Today is Sunday, April the 13th. It's about 8:30 in the morning. 20 degrees, overcast, rained overnight. Rained quite heavily at about midnight. It's always nice when it rains. Well, it's nice when it rains after a hot spell. Welcome back to Bob's Walkie Talkie. Today we've got a little bit of walking to do. Going out for coffee with a friend. On the way, we can talk about a few things. I want to start with this idea. Life is shaped by both large vectors and by daily rituals. And as far as daily rituals go, I think this is a good one. It's self-reflective, gives me something to do, something to think about. It's easy to execute. And hopefully I can connect with others through these thoughts. But I want to start with large vectors, because large vectors are the things that really define us. And this is an easy one because I used to when I worked as a real estate agent, I used to always tell my young clients to buy the house that they're going to need in 5 years' time. And 5 years is a far enough horizon that you can picture it, and yet it's close enough that you can picture it, and yet far enough away that you can make plans to achieve it. So with that in mind, you look back 5 years ago, we were in the midst of the first lockdown of the pandemic. And I'm happy that we had the pandemic for two reasons. One is that I lived through it. And it challenged a lot of beliefs and ways of life, and it was a great chance to reflect on where your life was and where you wanted to go. The second reason was it was one of these life-defining times or generation-defining times. The one previous to it was probably World War II. So the generation or two before me and you and us lived through that. That was a life-defining moment. We got the pandemic. The generation before that generation maybe had World War I. These are big seismic shifts. And what the pandemic did was it made us all it broke all our patterns, essentially. So if you break the patterns, then you can form new patterns. So although the pandemic was terrible, people died, and it was a really terrible time for 2 years, it was an interesting time and a generation defining time, because it changed our patterns, and hence the way we look at things. If you look back at your life, who you were 5 years ago, chances are you're not the same person today. Maybe you are. I'm not. All right, enough about the pandemic and that. I like these daily walkie-talkies because It's just a little bit of a reflection, self-reflection, public self-reflection. But I don't want it to be about me. It's about us. It's about how we relate to society, how we fit in. We go through our life and I always say we, but it's me. We go through our life and we don't pay attention to things. So it's good to have a hobby like this, or like street photography, or like, it doesn't really matter what your hobby is. It makes you pay attention to things a little bit differently. For example, if your hobby is pottery, then you pay attention to that sort of thing when you're in restaurants and art galleries and things. So it's good to have a hobby that you can that makes you look at things, makes you look at life and appreciate things or question things. So yesterday evening I was out with a buddy, and we went down to the harbor, the inlet where the ferries come and go to Chijing Island, and there's a Circle K across the street. So we grabbed a couple of King cans and we settled in to have a chat and watch the ships come and go from the harbor. And there were 3 other Canadian guys down there, and they were all English teachers, been in Taiwan for 15, 20 years. They were all in their late 30s, early 40s, and interesting guys. Had a lot in common with them because they were me 25 years ago. I was a 37-year-old expat living in Taiwan and teaching English. So it was a interesting reflection upon a previous self. And when I went back to Canada in 2000, 25 years ago, my life took a major vector change. But you look down the road for these guys, and maybe they're going to be here in another 15, 25 years, still doing similar things. And it's easy to stay in Taiwan because it is such a great place. And we talked about Taiwan versus, other countries, Canada, Philippines. So that was fun. One thing we did talk about, though, was YouTube and other YouTubers. First of all, I wouldn't have spoken to those guys, or at least had sat down and had a beer with them if it wasn't for Bob's Utopia, because one of the guys recognized me from Bob's Utopia, and he's a fan. He told his friends and mother about it, which is nice. I told him to tell his sister about it too. Don't forget to tell your sister. And of course I was with Joe, who's also a friend through my YouTube channel, and just for the record, I'm on my way to coffee with another friend I made through Bob's Utopia. So really, making YouTube videos is a well, actually Eric, a guy I met at Christmas time, said it's the best calling card in the world. So you can build your own tribe. So we were talking about YouTube and Bob's Utopia, but we're also talking about Wes Davies. And Wes is about the same age as these guys who I was talking to yesterday. And Wes Davies has just returned to Canada 4 months ago to live and work there for at least a year, maybe longer. I don't know if he's going to come back. I kind of think he will, but we'll see. When I returned to Canada at 37 years old, it was tough for me to rejoin the Canadian society, especially the workforce, because I've been away so long, had no work history and all that jazz. Wes is struggling with that now in terms of even renting an apartment. You can't rent an apartment if you don't have a credit history and a job history and all that stuff. So luckily, Wes Davies does have a good friend in Emma Mattress. Yes, there's only one thing I love more in this world than my Emma mattress, and that is a video about Emma mattresses. So, in terms of Bob's Utopia, I am working on my very last video. I'm working slow because I'm going to release it a few days before I leave, and there's no rush to get it done. I'm more enjoying this daily video series, and why? Because it's easy. It's authentic. It's just a new thing. I think it's fun to quit when you're on top. Everybody likes to build and no one likes to maintain. And Bob's Utopia is something I built over the last 7 seasons, and now that it's leveled off, maintaining it isn't that interesting to me. It's the way of the world, sad but true. And frankly, I'm going to be leaving Bob's Utopia behind me for 6 months or so. So there's no real impetus for me to put a lot of effort into it now, because in 2 weeks' time I'm going to put it on the shelf for a while. Yeah. So I'm going to leave you with this thought. And I thought of this because of those guys, those Canadian guys I met yesterday, and just the reflective nature of today's talk. It's good to be idle and aimless. And if you can be idle and aimless without being bored, then you've found the key. Once you're bored, you're going to get yourself in trouble. But to be content to do what I do and just hang around, and yeah, that is true contentment. All right, that's today's little walk and talk. Thanks for joining me again. See you tomorrow about the same time.